And there's going to come a time when you are going to be asked to be the man and to pull out the trigger to shoot the enemies that are coming against you, because they are seeking to tell you that you're anything but less than what the Lord has said to you. But you keep going as a soldier. (1991). And here we are. Not only did we play rugby together, we used to listen to that song together. We did lots of other things together. But now we are men. And the amazing thing is that we have stood the test of time. Many struggles have hit us. And we should have the excuses. But one of the conversations I know I've had with you is that about your dad. As he was teaching you to fish, he said to you, "Ndimi wana baba wacho." Ladies and gentlemen, dukuba muomberere humba wa mumusha. How has it been being raised as Anotida is being raised by a father who is not only tough, but is one who knew what he was doing, was organized, and beyond that, was able to set you guys up, and even when he left, we were not ready for him to leave.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much, Coach Taf, for the introduction. And yes, I'm the secret keeper. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to speak to you today. Having a father like my father was into construction. He was a businessman. He was a disciplinarian. And yes, he never allowed us to make excuses. So when I see you raising your son and throwing him into the deep end, I see my father in you. We had the privilege of both of us being mentored by him, being told that we have to become strong men. So those experiences are what nurtured us to get to this point. And I'm very grateful to be doing life with you as my friend, my confidant, and secret keeper. I have very few secrets compared to you. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited. Last year I was arrested. No, I'll say it again. Last year I was arrested. And the thing about being arrested in this country is that they're going to give you a red blanket. When you get in there, they will tell you to remove your shoes, remove your belt, and they're going to tell you to make a choice between a jacket or a shirt that you're wearing. And today I have another friend. This is your other father's son. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Gillian, Rusike! Man, Gillian, welcome. Gillian, you allowed me to come and sit with your very new foundation just a few weeks ago, where you are raising men as well. And man, when we talk about your history, growing up in Epworth, when everybody else did not believe in you, when you would actually work on piece jobs sometimes, and here you are. You started an organization that has grown to become a wildfire, the Marketers Association of Zimbabwe. Come on, let's give him a big round of applause. You did not give yourself an excuse to say, I'm not going to be the best version of myself because of my background. What did it take?
Well, Coach, it's my pleasure to talk to you. But one thing that I've realized and has motivated me in life is basically two things. As a man, or as a very young boy, what I've realized is that I am born a leader. And it is my challenge and my hope today that after this conversation, every young man who is in this room, no matter the background, is for you to understand that you are a leader. You're a leader in your own sphere, in your own space, But just know that you are a leader and there's an expectation over you as a leader, no matter the background. I come from a very, very poor background that if I'm to start telling you, I was sharing my story with the gentleman there who's coming next, and he said, wow, you've already motivated me. I want you to know that everyone, one of you who is here looking at me, you're a born leader. And number two, Coach Taf, one of the things that have always inspired me in life is I've never been comfortable with the status quo. I've always raised questions about things. So for me, I would question, why are we eating sadza without meat? I want to know the reason. We grew up watching black and white television. Tuma TV to digital. I don't know what to do. To Gungu. I would always question. I would look at my dad. I would not tell him, but I would say, why would we watch this kind of a television? Yet my friends also are watching the big color televisions. I would want a reason. And I would always vow to say, the best is what I would want for my children. So all those things would always motivate me and encourage me not to look at my current state, but to desire for more and achieve greatness stuff.
So there was a song that I had prepared for you, and maybe we didn't manage to download it for you, but I was hoping to make you cry. So the song I actually wanted for you was Mufudziwe Mombe. And there it is. As this song is playing in the background, Gillian, I see sometimes your pain, and I share this sort of pain where people want to now become related to us, when during the time we were in the trenches alone, hungry, hoping someone would be there for us, and they were not there. Takadzifudza mombe dzedu. And sometimes there is maybe a young man in here today who's using that excuse to say, I would like to be. And they use that to step back instead of using that as momentum to push them to become a greater version of themselves. Maybe they are thinking to themselves that somebody said something negative to them. But you and I are now on the other side, that those very same people are now coming back and saying, but we are on the other side, and we are now hearing the things that are saying, good, I'm very proud of you. I want you to speak to Anotida and the rest of the boys in here and tell them about the importance of setting goals, pursuing them in spite of what people say.
Powerful, Coach. Yes, for sure, I'm now on the other side. I've come from that other side. Look. I just want to assure you that I've crossed over to the other side. And life is good if you cross over. And I want every one of you who is here to build a mindset that it is possible, but it is personal. It is about you, not somebody else, not your parents, not your mom, not your dad. But this is personal. As a man, remember, I said I've come to tell you something that you are a leader. No matter what, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I am born to lead. You might not lead a company, you might not lead what, but wherever you are born to lead. So, having grown up in a setup where my mom played the biggest role in raising me up, yes, I had a dad, but he was working very far away from us as the family. And I would understand how my mom would struggle even to put food on the table for us. So I attribute everything that is me to the work that my mom did to us as a family, to us as the children. And being raised the only boy in a family of 5. So I had 4 sisters and I was the only boy. You know what it means when you're the only boy to your mom? The handbag of Bakubasa Ndinda Itambira, I would not allow my other sisters to open it because there were some nice goodies for me there, which I would share with my sisters. So everything is attributed to my mom. But as I kept asking myself a lot of other questions in life to say, why is this not happening to me? I want this. Why is this not happening to me? I want this. I remember when I thought of the idea of starting the business that I'm running now, one of the persons I went through, you know, in family setups, there's somebody that a father figure or a family figure, somebody who has made it in life, that you want their endorsement, you want them to pat your back, you want their support to pursue your vision. Unaba mkuru, baba mnini, sekuru, wamwa, wasingazivi, ama yako, yeutu unotarisira kuti, hey, when I grow up, I want to be like him. So, you know, long back, we didn't have laptops, we didn't have iPads, so you need to go into town, get those ladies who would type your things printed on papers, then you move around with papers in an envelope. So I made an appointment with him. I went to his office. He used to work for a giant retail company. You know, when I presented my story, my idea, my vision to him, what I expected was the direct opposite. His first question to me is, Mwanangu, vanhu vanokuti ndiwe ani? You want to go into the marketplace. Already in his eyes, I was a nobody. I was a child who is coming from Epworth of all the places. Somebody who didn't have a father to look upon. And he looked at me with those same spectacles. One thing I want to tell you is, in life, there are people who look at you possibly based on your background, how they know you, how you solve situations. Kuti unoterera sei kumba. So when you've got a big dream, when you speak it to them, they are not looking at the vision or the dream that you have, but they are seeing your current state. You know, after the conversation, so my expectation with him was probably he was gonna direct me to the CEO of that company because he was a marketer. I will not mention the name of the organizer. That was my expectation. This is a brilliant idea. You need to go and see 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I had to walk from that organization into town on foot, so dejected to say, I had to walk, I had to lose all the confidence. But you know what? I said, no ways. I can't, this thing will work. I convinced myself, Coach Taf. So there was no room for excuse. I just had to make sure that I give myself the boost that is needed, not to look at somebody else.
Son, one of the biggest challenges, Gillian, as you give your son the mic, one of your biggest challenges is that even as you're sitting with your 3 fathers right now is pressure. As a young man, and I want to bring a story that I know I'm going to get into trouble with Uncle Ed later on, but I will do it. But what are the sort of pressures that you're going through? Because as we sit here watching you become a man, we are ready to tell you it doesn't matter what you're going through, go through. But tell me a little bit about the pressures that you as young men go through.
I think the biggest thing is when you talk about pressure, it's pressure to perform. My siblings, I've got 3 siblings. I've got an older sister. I'm the second of 4. But in our culture, you know, you might have an older sister, but if you're the firstborn son, the burden and the most responsibility is placed upon you. You're the one who's going to have to take care of the family, and so on and so forth.
Black tax.
Black tax, exactly. Something interesting that you've just latched onto there as well. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your siblings, and taking care of your parents when they're no longer able to take care of you that's something I'm constantly thinking about. It is pressure. Yeah, and I'm sure it's something that most of the young men in here are dealing with or are probably going through right now. So yeah, pressure to perform, really.
Doesn't look like you got lots of pressure. Your hairstyle is different from mine.
I'm healthy. I've got long hair because I'm healthy. It's a good sign. I still have youth on my side. Yeah.
Uncle Ed, I'm going to bring a story that you and I find very difficult to talk about. And many young men are seated in here, and I know I'm taking you really deep into a space, at the very least, I did not prepare you for. But beyond that, you at SOS are raising young men and young women. You have a lot of homes that you superintend as the country director. But it almost feels like a huge burden when you see young men and we remember our big brother who committed suicide. I can never forget you crying on my shoulder in anger because of our culture. Mukoma couldn't handle the pressures of life and he took his life. And maybe there's a young man in here who is going through some kind of pressure. We want you to know that we've been there. And Ed, when you were crying on my shoulder, I remember you said, why are they burying him like a dog? It's been many years. We've never talked about this. But my brother, we have a responsibility to raise these young men so that they don't go through what we saw our big brother go through. We have a responsibility to make sure that we tell these young men that it doesn't matter what you're going through, committing suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Let's just go through back there. I'm sorry, my brother, but man, I've known you since I was wearing shorts, and we will fight later. But let's talk about our big brother. I think more before we're tummies, brother.
Success curve. Thank you very much, Coach, for bringing back those memories. I mean, that's why we are here. It hurts a lot when somebody goes through that decision to say, okay, this is it, I'm going to take my life, I'm not going to be talking to anybody, you just shut people out and then you just do the inevitable. So when he says I'm country director, basically I'm a glorified father. I get to be a father of over 220 children who are in residence in our children's villages and about 148 young people that we look after. We have other 43,000 children in the community in Zimbabwe that we take care of at SOS. The thing with that is, I want to warn you, young people, as you are growing up, be careful what you pray for. God honors some of these covenants that we make. I remember I used to want to have a football team of children. I would pray, I want to have a whole football team. I don't know if I wanted to be a coach. You became the coach.
I became a coach.
But then I ended up being father to hundreds of children. And raising them to be men and to be strong men is what we do. And for me, I had the privilege of having a very strong father in my life. And him being strong, he didn't give us a chance to make excuses. For me, I think I was a bit of a disappointment to him because I couldn't be what he wanted me to be. He was a builder who transformed himself to an engineer, consultant in the oil industry space, and he even made me a director of one of his companies when I was just fresh out of university. But guess what? I was terrible at math. And I didn't like engineering things. I would hang around them, but that was just not my space. So when you were talking about pressure earlier on, that's the kind of pressure I grew up, being molded into somebody that you want your child to be. So coming to my brother, unfortunately, he then made that decision, but he also grew up with those kind of pressures that I went through. And one thing that we do as parents, we really want the best for our children, but sometimes we put them under so much pressure, we throw them into the deep end to an extent that sometimes they fail to cope. And when you don't realize that this is an individual, this is not me, this is an individual who's supposed to have their own life on their own terms. My father was so driven with success, being successful, making it in business, and my brother succumbed to some of those pressures. He had other social problems and social issues. And part of it is the degeneration of these institutions that we used to have. The sekurus, the tetes that you would go to and talk to. We don't have that anymore. So when you have marital issues, sexual health issues, especially for the boys, it's very difficult to open up to say, guys, I'm struggling with this. And my brother went through all of those issues to an extent that he then made that ultimate decision. And it hurt. Because traditionally, they really treat you like a dog. If you commit suicide, you are an outcast. My brother had fine clothing, man. Nice jackets imported from I don't know where. He loved football. He had these amazing jerseys. Do you know what they do with all of that? They pack it all up and they go and throw it away. We don't want anybody to be contaminated with this spirit. Even during the burial, they don't accord you all of those rights of a normal person who's being buried. You're just buried like a non-entity. That broke my heart. I think our traditions should change. Instead of doing all of that, what should have been done was a conversation with all of us to say, look, this is how bad it can get. Anybody can get into that situation. But if we don't become proactive to fix it before it gets there, that becomes a problem. When you have a father who's a strong man that you can't really talk to. My father was famous for this phrase, Kuti, andina ushamwari newapwere. His objective was to nurture you into a man and become a man. He said, I'm the parent, you are the child, and you do as I say. Those were kind of his principles, hard and fast. But you know what? Imagine if we had what I see here, where you talk to your son. We were teasing him, should I go there? We were teasing him when we were in South Africa, about girls, and, trying to challenge him to step up and say hello to this girl. Because this is Takakura Tichichkoskan. We went to a boys' high school. Sagama bebiga angari ma one. Kutotanga conversation was my one. But I had a friend like him, all-rounder in sports, very popular. The ladies sang praises. Tike Yagapinda.
Our son is here.
So we got courage from what he did on the sports field so we could talk to these girls. Slowly, Shagasoita. Episode here, how I met your mother. But anyway, back to my story. If only I had a father who was like him, whom I could talk to and say, Dara, things are not working out here. If my brother had that kind of relationship with their parent where you could open up and say, Baba, all of these things, you could get help. And that's what is important.
It's very important. And as we round off, I want to reiterate that very important point. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know if you've got a father who's alive or not. But I want you to know that there are father figures who are available for anybody, no matter the pressure that you're going through as a man, as a young man, as a boy becoming a man. You can always step up to a fellow father and ask for advice. What we want to say to you, young men, is that you will never resolve any matter by coming up with a permanent solution that really was a temporary problem. There is no matter that is worth your life. And we pray that you'll be able to remember this Son, maybe you have a question and you have this privilege to speak to your fathers, and we want to give you one line of advice, because we've been there. We've been through heartache. We have loved and we've lost. We've made money and we've lost. We have had big dreams. And one of the things we've learned is that the only way to have big dreams is when those dreams are taken from you, you dream even bigger. But you have the privilege of asking your fathers. Ask.
I think one of the biggest questions I have from my side is, first of all, when dealing with things for the first time. We're all going through life for the first time. I want to get your perspectives on how you dealt with things like loss of a friend, serious life issues, family issues when you were younger like myself, and how you're dealing with it now as you are now, should I say, the leaders or the father figures now. What is the perspective shift? What is the difference between dealing with those sort of things from my age, and what is the perspective now?
Well, just to let you know, this is the first time I'm having to raise a son who can speak like that. Gillian, you go first, brother. You go first as we get ready to bring Ian up.
Well, yes, I think for me, dealing with issues or matters in life, as a young person, I would advocate that experience is the best teacher. Because these days, it's very difficult to really advise a young person to say, this is the way you need to go, and they take you quite seriously without any experience about those things. I've got a son. I've got two sons, in fact, very mature kind of age. One of the things that I do to them is I throw them at the deep end. Because if I'm to sit down with them, if you want to start a business, this is how it's done, and so forth and so forth. What I discovered ultimately is they listen to you, but when they go back, they are saying, Dad, your way is not my way. You get the kind of thinking. So my advice is, if you want to do things in life, experience them first. Go for them. Go for the deeper end. When you fail, or when you discover that you are not really achieving what you want to achieve, then come back for advice. Because one thing that I've discovered, Coach Taf, is that these days, the way we used to live is completely different from how these youngsters are living. And my advice to them could not tally exactly with the current way of doing things. These guys are gadget boys. The moment I'm telling them, they are already Googling the answer. Before they even think, that they are saying, Mdara, is it working? Because for them they've got another source of advice that speaks more to them than what I say. So I would say, whatever you want, man, go through them before you just sit down with Dad and stuff. And when you see that you are facing or hitting brick walls, then come back to him, because you need to be yourself. Remember, I said you're a leader in your own right. So that will be my advice, Coach. Thank you.
You said, sorry if I can just chime in on something that you said. You said something that really interested me just now about living in a digital age now. There's young people out there, young men, who don't have fathers, but they are learning manhood through the internet. And the danger of that is you may have some people on the internet who have these extremist views on manhood and masculinity. If you could maybe elaborate just a little bit more on that, on how young men nowadays are learning how to be a man, not from their fathers, not from their grandfathers, but on the internet.
I'm going to ask Uncle Ed to answer that one, because these are the things that you're dealing with every single day.
Thank you very much for raising that, young man. So one of the things that we do as fathers is, in our organization, we approach all our problems with humility. You cannot know everything. That's one thing. Number two, you young people, the Gen Z, you are gadget driven, gadget crazy, you spend a lot of time on the screen, you know stuff, and you know a lot of stuff. Our kids know so much. They know a lot more than we do. And that's one thing that we have come to terms with and accept that, okay, these guys probably know a lot, but guess what? There's one thing that our math teacher used to tell us, and I'll mimic his accent.
Yes.
You can be cleverer than your father, but never wiser than him. That's what he used to say, and we would laugh at him. One thing that you as young people need to know is that exposed to so much information, there is a lot. You have to sift and also discern what it is that is best for you. But with us, there's something very different. We have the experience. We have lived these things. And it's that experience that you need to help you on your way. So you may know a lot of things, but you can never do without that experience. So for these children and young people who do not have fathers that we look after, we have gone about creating programs where they interact with mentors, people of esteem, people who can really guide them on their way. We have also recreated these traditional institutions. We have our sekurus, we have our tetes in the community, go-to people who can talk to these people and counsel them. That's how we go about parenting these days.
Wonderful. That was a very powerful question, Anotida. Please give my son a big round of applause. You've done extremely well. But before you go, I would like you to come and sit right in the middle because I'm going to invite, you should stay there and stay there. I want to answer your question also. Your two fathers have answered, and it's time for Mdara Coach to answer the same question. This is what they call me at home. Son, I want you to understand that you're fully equipped. When things come your way, the Bible teaches us that there is nothing that is going to come your way that you will not be able to withstand. And so, unovisa ubaji wekuita mwana mudiki otsvaga bhaji mwanangu rinoenderana nekuita murume. Edi uya padhuze bata apa iwewe opfeka bhaji rekuita murume mwanangu, because you're a man. The expectations of being a man require that you act like a man. We have things that we have put inside of you, prepared you as you were growing up, because we knew that there's going to come a time where you have to dress up and do the things that men ought to do. There is no space for you to have an excuse, but you've got to make sure that all the things that we have put on you, you have to go out there and be the man that you're supposed to be.
It's about to go down.
And when that time comes, young man, your father is not going to be there with you, but we have prepared you to be able to pull out the arsenal, the armor for you to be a man. You will not be called upon to be a son when the time comes to be a man. This is how it goes. And there's no timing. You just pull out the things that we've prepared you to do and to become, and you give it your very best shot.
So watch us next week for more inspirational stories, sending love and light your way.